The rain had just stopped when the small boy stood outside the grocery store, his shoes soaked and laces undone, his hair clinging to his forehead as if the day had placed its entire weight on him. People walked past him without noticing, too busy, too distracted, too consumed by their own worlds to see how tightly he clutched the little paper bag he had brought from home. It looked wrinkled and nearly empty, as if it had been reused too many times. His eyes kept shifting nervously from the entrance of the store to the road behind him, hoping for something, but seeing nothing. The soft trembling of his hands, the quiet rise and fall of his chest, and the way he kept swallowing hard painted a picture far too heavy for a child his age. And then, when a tall man accidentally bumped into him and asked where his parents were, the boy simply said, in the softest voice imaginable, "My mom is at work." It was a simple sentence, but the way he said it, small, shaky, almost apologetic, changed the air around them. It made people who had ignored him turn their heads. It made the man pause, and it began a story no one present that day would ever forget. If you believe every child deserves kindness, protection, and a second chance in this world, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. The boy had come to the store not because he wanted to, but because he had no choice. His mother worked double shifts at a nearby cleaning company, leaving early in the morning and returning late at night. She never complained, but her tired eyes told a different story. She had a small son to feed, rent to pay, and no one to help her. Life had pushed her into a corner, and she fought daily to climb out. Today she had left a note on the kitchen counter, scribbled in a rush, asking her son to buy a carton of milk with the little money she had placed beside it. It wasn't enough, but she hoped the store might have a small discount. The boy understood. He had seen her skip meals just to make sure he ate. He had seen her sewing the same clothes again and again to avoid spending extra. He knew she was doing everything she could, and he wanted to help, even if it meant standing alone in the rain with a few coins in his hand. When he finally gathered enough courage to walk inside the store, he felt the warmth of the fluorescent lights hit his wet clothes. The aisles looked huge, overwhelming, filled with items he knew he could never afford. He walked slowly, carefully reading labels he didn't fully understand, searching for the milk his mother always bought. Once he found it, he reached for the smallest carton, hoping the coins in his pocket would be enough. He stood in the checkout line quietly, avoiding eye contact, holding the carton close to his chest as if it were something precious. When it was his turn, he placed the milk on the counter along with the wrinkled coins he had carried so desperately. The cashier, tired from a long shift, barely looked at him. She scanned the carton, announced the price, and waited. The boy, suddenly aware that the amount was too high, opened his small hand and showed the coins. There was silence. A long, uncomfortable silence. Some people in line frowned impatiently. Others watched with curiosity. The cashier sighed, annoyed, and shook her head. The difference wasn't huge, but it was big enough to deny him what he needed. The boy looked down at his shoes, his breathing becoming shallow. He whispered, almost inaudibly, that his mother was at work and didn't have more money. His voice cracked, breaking something inside the hearts of those who listened. The tall man who had bumped into him earlier had watched the entire scene from behind. He noticed the trembling shoulders, the damp clothes, the desperation hidden behind quiet words. Something inside him stirred, something human, something painful, something deeply familiar. He had once been that child, standing in a store with too little money, waiting for anyone to see him. And so he stepped forward. But before he could speak, another customer, an older woman with soft eyes, placed her hand on his arm gently, as if asking him to wait. The room had changed. The mood had shifted. And what happened next would remain etched in everyone's memory. The stranger, the tall man, stepped beside the boy and picked up the carton. He quietly placed enough money on the counter to pay not only for the milk, but for several other essential items the boy clearly needed. The cashier stared, stunned, her irritation fading into shame. The other customers fell silent, watching a moment of pure humanity unfold before them. The boy looked up, confused, unsure if he should speak, or run, or cry. His eyes filled with tears he had tried so hard to hold back. The man knelt slightly, not to talk down to him, but to meet him where he stood. He gently placed a hand on the boy's shoulder and told him he'd done nothing wrong. He explained that needing help wasn't something to be ashamed of. He reminded him that adults were supposed to protect children, not make their lives harder. The older woman who had touched the man's arm earlier added a few more items to the bag: bread, fruit, and a small package of cookies. She whispered softly that no child should ever worry about groceries. Another customer quietly added a few dollars, telling the cashier to keep it for emergencies like this. One by one, strangers who had entered the store with groceries on their mind left with something far greater. A reminder that kindness still existed, hidden but powerful, waiting to surface in the right moment. The boy was overwhelmed. He didn't know how to thank them. He tried to explain again that his mother was at work and didn't know he would be late. He was worried she might panic if she came home early and didn't find him. The tall man offered to walk him home. The boy hesitated, unsure if he should trust a stranger, but the presence of so many kind faces reassured him. Together they stepped out into the damp afternoon air. The sidewalks glistened after the rain, and the sky held a soft, peaceful gray, as if nature itself was calming down after witnessing such emotion. As they walked, the man asked gentle questions. He learned that the boy's mother worked nearly 12 hours a day and still struggled to make ends meet. She had no family nearby, and the boy spent most afternoons alone, waiting for her to return. He learned that the boy used to love drawing, but no longer had the supplies. He learned that his mother used to be full of energy before life drained it from her piece by piece. Every word the boy said reminded the man of his own mother, who had worked multiple jobs just to give him a chance. He realized that the cycle of struggle was repeating itself in another home with another child who didn't deserve it. When they reached the small apartment building where the boy lived, the man walked him to his door and made sure he was safe inside. The boy's mother wouldn't return for several hours, but the man knew she needed to hear what had happened from someone who had witnessed the strength she had unknowingly passed to her son. He left his phone number on a small slip of paper, asking the boy to give it to his mother so she wouldn't worry. The boy thanked him again, voice trembling, eyes shining with gratitude. The man walked away slowly, feeling something inside him shift. He knew he had done the right thing, but he also knew it wasn't enough. A few hours later, when the exhausted mother returned home and heard what had happened, she called the man. Her voice trembled with gratitude and embarrassment. She apologized for not having enough. She apologized for her son being alone. She apologized for a life that had forced her into difficult choices. But the man stopped her gently, insisting that she had nothing to apologize for. He reminded her that she was strong, brave, and doing everything she could. He told her that her son was polite, courageous, and far more mature than his age. And then he offered something unexpected. He offered to help her find better work through a friend who owned a cleaning company with fair wages and flexible hours. She hesitated, unsure whether to trust him, but something in his voice carried sincerity. She agreed to meet. Weeks passed, and slowly their lives began to change. The mother found stable work with better pay, reducing her shifts and giving her time to rest. The boy returned to drawing, filling pages with colors he once thought he'd lost. The man visited sometimes, not to interfere but to support them quietly. He would bring books, drawing pencils, healthy groceries, or simply sit and talk. He became something unexpected, not a savior, not a rescuer, but a friend, a reminder that humanity still had a pulse. The neighborhood, once indifferent, began noticing the changes too. The store where the moment had occurred put up a small sign at the entrance. If someone is short on essentials, let us know. Kindness first. The cashier, once impatient, became gentler. The older woman who had helped visited often, bringing warmth to the small apartment. Near the end of the story, the boy's mother finally felt hope again, a feeling she thought she had lost forever. And the boy, standing taller, smiling brighter, understood something powerful. One act of kindness can change the course of someone's life in ways no one expects. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps us create more emotional stories that inspire kindness. Before we end, tell us in the comments, do you believe one kind act can change a life? And so, in a world often too busy to notice, a boy's simple words, "My mom is at work," became the spark that awakened kindness in an entire community, proving once again that compassion, when given freely, can transform even the simplest moment into something unforgettable.